Thomas Lindauer, he is now on the show, and he will be talking to us about really just a season, what to expect, and the last few years. So, Thomas, how's it going today, man?
It's going good. Just on the bus ride home now from Michigan State, and just trying to maybe catch up on some sleep and get ready for finals.
Yeah, absolutely. See, it's got to be hard to balance the schoolwork with the baseball. I was reading on when you first went to Illinois, you had to struggle to adjust to that. Waking up 5:30, doing workouts, going to school, getting ready for the 8 o'clock classes, going back, having to work out after school, and then having to study. High school it had to have been just much easier schoolwork-wise. That first year for you, you're hitting pretty low average. Your still defense was there. You got some time at second base, third base. How hard was that freshman year for you to adjust, and when did you start feeling comfortable as a baseball player at University of Illinois?
I started feeling comfortable pretty early, but in high school you don't see high 80s, low 90s with breaking balls every day.
Yeah.
So, seeing that every day was a tough adjustment for me, and obviously that's proven with experience. I struggled my first year, got better my second year, and now I'm doing better my third year. So I think that seems to be the common theme with just about every Division I athlete for the most part. And just making those adjustments has been really important. And every pro talks about adjusting to what your opponent's doing. So it's just making adjustments and doing whatever you can to try to get one up on the opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. And, last season, you were ranking in the Big Ten, top 10 for, in steals and assists and this and that. And really, you reach base a lot when you're leading off in an inning. And that brings me to, your most comfortable spot. You did bat a few games in the 9-hole outside of, I believe, your senior year in high school where you bat in the 3-hole a few games. You mainly have been a leadoff hitter. How comfortable and how much is that comfort level for you batting leadoff, whether it's in an inning or in a game? Why do you really prefer that leadoff spot?
I really have always preferred the leadoff spot. I was kind of fortunate to hit in third senior year of high school, but other than that, I really, really loved hitting leadoff. I like setting the table, especially when you have hitters behind you that can really swing a bat. Like we got, Michael Hurwitz hitting second, and then Jordan Parr hit third and fourth, where Jordan's, I think, maybe even leaving the whole entire country and hitting, and Jordan has a ton of power behind him. So just to be on base and giving those guys chances to drive runs in and do what they do is really important to the team, I think. And it's all about scoring runs in baseball. Obviously, the more runs you score, the better chance you got to win, the more comfortable your pitcher is going to be, the more relaxed your defense is. So I'm just trying to score runs as much as possible, and I think since I've been putting that leadoff spot again, I've done a very good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about the defense. Really, baseball is about defense, pitching, and, of course, the offense is an added extra. We've seen recent years of success from a team like the San Francisco Giants that have really relied mainly on their pitching, and it kind of proved that if you have pitching and defense, that's the kind of fundamental part of baseball. But the one aspect of your game that has really just shot through the roof this year is your offense. You're hitting around 300. You're hitting above that earlier in the year. You really surprised a lot of people. You hit that first home run earlier in the season. It was almost kind of a joke because, you hear that people are probably, your teammates are probably giving you some stuff for not being a big power hitter, but you can't complain when you have one of the best fielding percentages in all of the country. You've always considered yourself more of a defensive player. Do you still consider yourself mostly a defensive player, maybe 80-20 defense over offense, even after all of your offensive success and kind of coming together as a complete player? Do you still focus more on the defensive aspect of your game?
I try to separate them. It's two completely different parts of the game. Obviously, we can't do anything about hitting while we're playing defense, and you can't do anything about defense when you're hitting. So I've always done my best just to separate them, and I think any baseball player would say, we put more time into hitting. Obviously, stand there and hit off a tee for 20 minutes before you even start hitting live, that kind of thing. So I just do my best to separate them. Try not to carry bats over to in the field, and not try to carry errors into the batter's box. So. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't consider myself totally defensive player. I really do prefer playing defense for some reason. A lot of people don't. They'd rather hit, but I have a fun time playing defense, and I'm still focused on my offense when I have to be though.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the defense has been unbelievable this year. Same with the offense. And I think that's what has really made you a top shortstop in the country. You're on the watch list for the Brooks Wallace Award, which goes to the top, shortstop in the country last season. But that was when you had when you have a low offensive, output. And now look at your numbers this year. I don't know who else would get it. Now, going into this year, for you, in 2012, you bat 280, 2011, 180. You're getting more and more chances. And now, going into this season, what were your kind of goals? I mean, you really were a pretty complete player defensively. How did you end up making these adjustments? I mean, you went from 0 home runs to now you're at 10 home runs. I mean, is it kind of was it one or two key adjustments that you've made, or is it just a progression and seeing more pitches throughout the years that have made you at least able to stock up on the power and really turn it around offensively in your junior season?
I think a lot of it's got to do with preparation and, obviously seeing pitches. The more you do something, the better you tend to be at it. So, I got a ton of at-bats in the summertime after freshman year. I got another 200 last year, and then I've probably had, about upwards of 1,000 college at-bats now, seeing good college pitching. So that obviously helps. And then, repetition and making the adjustments during the week, figuring out what that pitcher likes to do, studying film, that kind of thing. So, we have everything documented on film. Everybody watches it. It just depends on how much you use it and how you use it. And I think my preparation has been really good this year in learning how guys are going to pitch me depending on, righty-lefty matchup, that kind of thing. And it's really helped just learning all that from our assistant coaches and head coach on a learning standpoint and trying to figure out what people are trying to do to get you out and what they think your weakness is and taking advantage of mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talked about the coaches, that's one aspect that is not really talked about as much. When players, people talk to players and they're saying, the average, and you're looking at the stats, but really what it comes down to is the kind of infrastructure for the organization. So what can be said about the University of Illinois Fighting Illini, the program, the coaches, and everything that you've learned in your 3 years now at Illinois, going, this is your third season. So, I mean, is there a way to really describe the program and how much you've learned in the past few seasons?
This program is really good. They do a really, really good job with kids and school mainly. Obviously, I was not the best of students coming into school, so they knew that, though. They took a chance, and they've kept me on my path, kept me doing my things right. So, I mean, they make sure you're taking care of things outside of baseball. I mean, baseball is first in our minds, but I know those guys want us graduating, and they want us doing the best. If baseball doesn't happen to work out for us, because for a lot of college kids, obviously, their goal is to move on and to the next level, and sometimes, that happens. Most of the time it's not going to, so they do a really good job of making sure school is a high priority. And then from a baseball standpoint, Coach Snyder is about as good as it gets, our position coach. He really understands the game. He does a really good job of getting on a personal level and understanding what we're good at as players, and he really takes advantage of that, and he takes what we're not good at, and it makes it one of those things where it can be a strength or where it's just good enough to survive. So I can honestly say my 3 years here have been awesome, and if I have to come back for a fourth, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, you talked about that, the Coach Snyder, he had, I believe I read an article, and he just had so many great things to say about you, and in that article, it was talking about this idea of being elite. The first 2 years, you were a defensive player. The second year, obviously your offensive numbers came up, and I think people were expecting that. It was going to be a progression and adjustment. I mean, it's hard to all of a sudden bat, go from high school of really just never failing or not failing too much to you're facing, again, like you mentioned, high 80s, low 90s, breaking pitches. You're in the Big Ten. This is a huge network of just fantastic pitchers and really great competition. So, Snyder had great things to say about you, and also another thing is, in high school, you're a multi-sport guy, basketball, golf, baseball, and all of a sudden you're focusing on one thing. And playing college sports, I couldn't imagine really just all the work that you have to put into it, especially for a big school like Illinois. So, I think people were probably expecting the progression. We all know that it runs in the family, and you have fantastic athleticism. Your uncle, he played for a low Cardinals minor league team. I believe other relatives, softball and in college, and your dad has been a huge part of that, a coach of yours and a really big mentor. But before we talk about, kind of your mentors and your goals for the future, Snyder talked about just really he raised you up. I mean, he's talking about how fantastic of a player defensively. You make everything look very smooth when you're playing the field. It's kind of unbelievable. So when you look at this whole idea of being elite, what does that mean to you? And when did you kind of have that idea? Okay, use it on Twitter, the hashtag #BeElite thing. And it's kind of this whole idea of not being great, but being elite defensively, offensively, as a team, everything. So what does being elite mean to you?
We actually had to go to a little conference, actually, our whole team, actually every athlete at the University of Illinois, if they didn't have anything going on, were actually required to attend it. And it was just one of those things where a guy came in and he knew, he had a speech prepared and he had been through a lot in his life, and it was just one of those guys you could really learn from, Sometimes you hear people talking and you're just like, all right, I got it. But this guy, you were really, really zoned in, took every word to heart and really tried to get something out of it. And he was talking about how, there's average, there's great, and then there's elite. Elite is the top of the line. Obviously elite is as good as it gets. Elite, you're like Robinson Cano's and Derek Jeters, those kind of guys. So
yeah.
He was talking about being great, and it's good to be great. Those are your second basemen were like your second baseman, shortstop, middle infielders. Those are your all-stars, but those all-stars aren't going to make the Hall of Fame sometimes. So, all-stars is like a one-year type of deal, and he's talking about being elite where you got your guys that are there every year, back to back to back. You see them, same guys you expect. You almost expect them to be all-stars. You expect them to make every play. You expect them to get the big hit. And those are like I said, Derek Jeter and Robinson Cano type of guys where you want to be to that level where you're not just considered, another shortstop or just, a three-hitter, an all-star just that year. You want to be that guy every day you step on the field and every year.
Yeah, absolutely, and it seems like you really put that on your back and become that player. You had to have really taken this offseason and really taken advantage of it. I'm sure that you've probably gained a lot of muscle mass this year, not necessarily correlating it to the power. It's mainly just the pitchers are leaving it up and you're taking advantage of it. How can you really explain the power numbers? Is this just a progression and this is how it's going to be? Or are some people saying he's developing the power? It happens with a lot of middle infielders. Like a guy like Starlin Castro, it starts off low power, and some of these guys aren't drafted necessarily on their power, but it develops. It's just kind of a natural development. Do you think that your power is just going to keep going up from here? Do you think, if you do in fact get drafted or if you stay at Illinois for another season, it's going to be right around the same mark and you're still going to be just a very solid leadoff hitter, an elite defender? Where do you see your power kind of going from here?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I hit another one out today, and I actually didn't think I hit it out, but it carried out, got just enough of it. So, obviously it's different with metal bats compared to wood bats too. There's sometimes where you can miss hit balls with a metal bat and get away with it as a hit, and when you're using a wood bat, you get sawed off, it breaks, that kind of thing. So, So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm really not sure. I'm not trying to hit home runs. I'm not doing anything like that. And then other times when I do try to hit home runs, like today, I actually tried to hit one out just because we picked up something from the catcher where he was setting up early, and me and my two-hitter, actually, Mike Hurwitz, a little guy, noticed it, and I just was like, hey, Mike, if he sets up in, can you just say my number while you're on the on deck circle? So I happened to get into a plus count, and he happened to come in, and Mike, said, here we go, 19 or whatever he said, and so I knew he was going to go fastball in because I don't really know any pitchers that throw any changeup or curveballs in. You don't really see that often. So I kind of knew that was coming, and got the front hip open a little early and got into one. So it's just one of those things where if I know it's coming, like today, catcher setting up earlier, the pitcher's giving pitches away, then every now and then I'll try to yank one. But other than that, I'm just trying to hit the ball through the middle, just like everybody's taught. And if he comes in, pull it. If he goes away, hit it over second base, that type of thing. But if the ball's gonna hit the barrel and jump, I'm not gonna complain at all.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting that that happened today, getting a setup, getting a little bit of a notice there. But, yeah, I mean, you talked about it. Not necessarily a huge power hitter, but the power numbers are very up this year, mainly because situational hitting, like you said. So, I mean, you look at the power numbers now, 10 home runs. I mean, I don't see how you're not the number one shortstop in the country. So, I mean, it's got to be just a great feeling to kind of see that all come together. But more importantly, what have you seen from your team this season? I mean, obviously, you guys have some stars in Justin Justin and Jordan Power. Justin seems to be the more, I guess, draftable guy this year, probably in the top few rounds of the season. I mean, what have you really learned from your teammates, I guess, in the past few years, but more this year particularly? And what have you seen from Justin Parr that makes him such an unbelievable all-around player? I mean, this guy's hitting, 30 straight games. Have you picked up anything from how he's played? And really, just how impressed have you been with these guys this year?
Yeah, I'm having a blast this year, absolutely. And we have a pretty veteran team in the field for the most part. I think we start, 3 senior outfielders, a senior at third, junior in the middle, and then a sophomore who had a couple hundred bats over the summer at first. And